Facebook and YouTube, since this conference for the first time is broadcasted live on EASA YouTube channel. This year's conference on new technologies and new business model in aviation coincides with the Slovak presidency of the Council of the European Union, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank our host today, the Minister of Transport of Slovakia. Ďakujem. You will find in your welcome package the detailed agenda of today and tomorrow's conference. You will also find the full list of participants. You will see that you are more than 200 participants today from 32 different countries and more than 120 organizations. In order to make this conference as lively and interactive as possible, you have seen that you have the possibility to interact with the speakers and with the panelists using the Slido application on your smartphone or the Slido website. Slido, which is actually a company from Bratislava, who has developed this application. So you have two possibilities, either to vote on an active poll. For example, here we have one question, which is this your first participation to an EASA annual safety conference? So you can vote yes or no. Or the other possibility that you have is to answer questions. So you will have the possibility to answer questions taking place during each panel. To ask questions taking place during each panel. This is a way to facilitate your interaction with the speakers and panelists. So the moderators will see the questions when the panel is going on and can select some of the questions. Of course, it will not be possible to answer all of them, but at least it helps engaging with you. You can also vote for a question. If you see that the question you would like to ask is already asked, you can vote for it, and then it gets additional votes and gets higher, so that the moderator knows which questions are to be asked in priority. So, having said this, and without further ado, I would like to welcome on stage Mr. Minister Érsek. Thank you very much, and have a good conference.
Dobrý deň prajem, vážené dámy, vážení páni. Dovoľte mi vás čo najsrdečnejšie privítať na tú konferencii pre bezpečnosť Európskej agentúry pre bezpečnosť civilného letectva, ktorá sa koná v Bratislave a ktoré témou je nové technológie a nové podnikateľské modely.
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure for me to welcome you in Bratislava to the European Aviation Safety Agency Annual Safety Conference, New Technologies and New Business Models, Meeting the Expectations. And we are very pleased to welcome this conference in Bratislava during our presidency of the Council of the European Union.
Teší nás, že práve túto konferenciu môžeme privítať v Bratislave počas nášho predsedníctva Rady Európskej únie. Aj keď Slovenská republika je malou krajinou a objem našej leteckej dopravy je menší ako v mnohých ďalších krajinách, uvedomujeme si, že veľký význam tohto druhu dopravy, čo znamená pre celý svet.
Although the Slovak Republic is a small country and by the number of provided air transport services may be lagged behind many of your countries, we are aware of the paramount importance of this travel mode.
Letecká doprava je synonymum pokroku. Vieme, že leteckou dopravou pokrieme celý svet. Nové technológie, ktoré zavádzajú, neustále zlepšujú letové podmienky, neustále zlepšujú nové lietadlá. Samozrejme, či sa týka leteckých parametrov, určite je to o hluku, určite je to o hluku a o prevádzke týchto foriem, ktoré používate v nových lietadlách.
The air transport is a synonym of progress. The most modern aircraft now connect all places on the Earth. Advanced technologies are gradually improved. and aircraft design changes. We are moving to lighter composite materials which reduce the weight of the aircraft and improve the economy of its operation. The new technologies also contribute to reduction of emissions and also the noise generated by air transport.
Je veľmi potešujúce, že k ďalšiemu vývoju v veľkej miere prispievajú aj krajiny Európskej únie, a to bez ohľadu na ich veľkosť. Za Slovenskú republiku si dovolím napríklad pripomenúť novú technológiu, ktorú prezentujeme aj počas nášho predsedníctva, a to je aeromobil. Ide o kombináciu auta a lietadla, ktoré sa za pár sekúnd zmení z jedného na druhé. Alebo náš príspevok k vývoju bezpečnosti civilného letiska. Vďaka pánovi Štefanovi Baničovi samozrejme sa bavíme o padáku.
It is encouraging that countries of the European Union significantly contribute to further development regardless of their size. For the Slovak Republic, I would like to mention a new technology that we also present during our presidency, that is the aeromobile. This is a combination of a car and an aircraft that is able to transform from one to the other within few seconds. Or I would mention the contribution to the development of civil aviation safety, thanks to Mr. Štefan Banič and his patented prototype of a parachute.
S novými technológiami sú spojené aj nové výzvy. Typickým príkladom okrem aeromobilu sú dróny, ktoré je potrebné vnímať ako nový segment podnikania. Niektoré kurierské služby, respektíve distribútory tovary užívajú ich a samozrejme aj na dopravu objednávok, čím sa uľahčí, hlavne urýchli čas dodania tovarov do novej, menej prístupnej oblasti.
However, new technologies bring new challenges that must be addressed. Apart from the aeromobile, other typical examples are drones, where individual countries as well as EASA regulate the conditions for their use. Some courier services or distributors of goods already consider their use for transport of your orders in order to facilitate and accelerate their delivery also to less accessible areas.
Natíska sa ďalšia otázka. Výzvou pre civilné letectvo je bezpečnosť. Je rýchle napredujúca automatizácia. Piloti sa stávajú operátormi počítačích systémov. Významnou mierou sa tak prispieva k zvyšovaniu bezpečnosti civilného letiska, avšak piloti strácajú manuálne návyky a schopnosti riešiť krízové situácie bez pomoci počítačových systémov, čo sa stáva v prípade zlyhania týchto systémov hrozbou aj pre bezpečnosť letectva.
Another challenge for civil aviation and its safety is the rapidly advancing automation. The pilots become operators of computer systems, which significantly contributes to enhancement of civil aviation safety. However, the pilots are losing manual habits and skills to handle crisis situations without use of computer system, which in case of failure of these systems may become a threat to aviation safety.
Vážené dámy, vážení páni, ja som rád, že práve táto konferencia tu prebieha a v týchto otázkach, ktoré sú veľmi závažného typu, týkajúce sa letectva, prajem vám príjemnú konferenciu, nehnevajte sa, nemôžem tu dlhšie ostať, pretože mám strašne veľa úloh dneska. A práve preto vám ďakujem ešte raz, že ste si ma vypočuli a prajem vám príjemný pobyt v Bratislave. Ďakujem veľmi pekne.
Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is going to address and discuss many very important safety issues, and I apologize that I have to leave after my speech because I have a number of other duties here, but I welcome you in Bratislava once again, and I wish you an enjoyable stay.
Ďakujem.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I would like now to welcome on stage Mr. Patrick Key, Executive Director of EASA. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to be here today, and I would like to thank again the Slovak presidency for hosting us this morning. We have 200 people in the room. With the YouTube channel, it's millions of watchers, I'm sure, that we are having. So this is a glorious moment for aviation safety. I'm very happy to be part of it. Innovation is in the DNA of humankind. Technologies have changed the way in which we live, the way in which we do business. And technology changes at a very rapid pace. When I started my working life in the 90s, we were using extensively faxes and telex. Who uses faxes anymore? Telex is another story. I will come back to that. But we were not using emails, and can anyone in this room think about a professional life without emails? This is impossible. And this was just 20 or 30 years ago. But how can we make innovation safe? How can regulators accompany innovation and aim at increasing the overall welfare of the society? At the end of the day, what we are all aiming at through innovation is to increase the welfare of the public. Those are the fundamental questions that we are going to discuss in the next 2 days. And of course, there are no easy answers to those questions. There are no black and white answers. And I hope that we can learn from each other, that we can learn from each other's experience in order to find ways in which we can continue to innovate. Of course, innovation is in the DNA of aviators. Flying today has nothing to do with the way we were flying some 50 years ago. The airplanes, and this was mentioned by the minister, and the aircraft technologies have changed tremendously, and it's certainly the component in the aviation system which has seen the most spectacular changes in the use of composite materials, in the use of new alloys, in the level of optimization for the performances of engines and power plants, in the use of electronic systems, in the automation which was brought in the cockpit. Those changes occurred in quite a rapid manner with the involvement of the regulators. And basically the way it was done is that the industry was proposing changes and the regulators were actually having an independent, safety-oriented look analysis at these changes, setting requirements in terms of performance, in terms of reliability, and it was up to the industry to show that their innovations could do better than the traditional approaches. And it worked. It worked. But if I take another field that I know quite well, air traffic management, when you look at the way in which air traffic controllers were doing their job 50 years ago, I would tend to think that nothing has really changed in their field. The way in which a controller still communicates with the aircraft is using VHF technology, which is dating from the 1950s. We have not been able to implement in air traffic management a very simple concept, which is the use of email for the communication between the controllers and the pilots. So why, in this field, weren't we able to succeed in bringing technological innovation? Is it technical problems? I don't believe so. What is the source of this conservatism? And this is something that I would like to offer to you, which is that I believe that in air traffic control, safety, or the notion of being safer, was a barrier to change. And I would like to say to you that sometimes more safety is the enemy of safety. When we are banning, or when we do not want to put equipment on board light aircraft just because they are not certified, I think that we are not increasing the level of safety. Whereas we could bring in some aircraft, some uncertified components which would increase the level of safety for small planes. So just those small examples illustrate the fact that we are faced with challenges on which the solutions and the answers are not necessarily obvious. You will see in the next 2 days that innovation is not only technological, and the few examples that I gave you are illustrating the fact that, in fact, to be innovative is not necessarily to bring a revolutionary technology, it's also innovate in the way we do business. in the way we are organizing ourselves. And the question is, can we, regulators, also be flexible enough to adapt to those organizational changes, to those business changes? And it's a question. Of course, we are trying to. And we are trying, we regulators, to be more flexible, to adapt ourselves to the challenges that our new societies are facing. And we are trying to cope with the level of change. We are also innovating in our fields, just because we have challenges of our own. We have less resources, we are faced more and more with very technically complex issues that need to be solved, and therefore, in order to continue to perform our work on those topics, we need to innovate. So we are increasingly investing on risk-based oversight, increasingly investing on data analysis, and you will hear a session about it tomorrow afternoon. And we try also to be involved upfront in research programs, just to be kept abreast of the technological change. We are also trying, and this is quite new, I think, to really adapt ourselves very quickly to the changes in the field. General aviation is a very good example of that. We are trying to be as flexible as possible to tackle the real challenges of general aviation. We do believe that it is not necessarily through regulations that you increase the level of safety. It's also through safety promotion. It's also through communication. We are trying to adapt ourselves to the needs of the market, to the needs of the society, but also to the fact that more and more of the young pilots in general aviation have less and less patience about reading very complex rules or very complex books. They are more interested in, being trained through applications on their smartphones or on their tablets. We need to make sure that we can keep the pace with the evolution of the society. Our main challenge is to move from prescriptive rules to rules which enable innovation to take place. Instead of saying, you have to do this and this and this and that when you design an aircraft, we should say, you have to design an aircraft which is safe in this manner. Just an example of that, we reviewed the certification specifications for the light aircraft, the so-called CS-23, with our colleagues from the United States. And it was a tremendous effort. We went down from 699 specific requirements for the design of the aircraft to 67 safety objectives, from 699 prescriptive design criteria to 67 high-level safety objectives. This is the way in which we should go. This is the way in which we are going to enable innovation to take place. But this is not the only way. And I'm certainly interested in learning from you, all of you, on how we can do better and how we can adapt ourselves better to the challenges of this new world. I wish us a very pleasant, challenging, and inspiring 2 days. And I will have a lot of pleasure listening to the presentations, discussing with some of you, with all of you, I hope, and staying here and listening to everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I would like now to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Geoffrey McGuire, who will speak about innovation, but innovation in different industry. We'll see. We'll get his point of view on innovation in the IT world. Geoffrey, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's a very different sort of a crowd for me today. In my tiny part of the internet, I'm quite well known. And I would say, as a general rule, I know the sort of things that my colleagues and my peers in our industry are concerned about, and I don't know so many of yours. I was very, very flattered to receive the invitation to speak here. And I thought it was a really interesting challenge to put together the way we think about things with the way that you do. And on a personal level, oh, the clicker works and everything. Fantastic. On a personal level, I'm old enough so that I remember when flying was fun and it was a little bit glamorous. I'm also the child of a divorce, and my parents lived very far away from each other, so I was on a lot of planes. And I've never really lost the love of flying. And my job as evangelist for a software services company for lets me do a lot of that every year. So I have this title, evangelist. Does that sound strange to anyone? It's quite particular to two industries. One of them technology, the other one religion, you know, the oldest profession in the world. I essentially, in my role for my company, I end up spending a lot of time as a bridge between the technologists and the business people, between the people who build the web and the people who want to buy a piece of the web. One of my special roles is unlocking untapped marketing potential in our organizations. In technology, we have a lot of people who are very, very, very brilliant at what they do, and they're not very good at talking with people. And so, you know, I spend time talking with technologists and then explaining the benefits that their technology brings to all of us. And I think that that's a paradigm that's really, really valuable across a lot of industries. And I'm glad to say that I'm going to be here all day today and tomorrow, and I'm also really looking forward to learning more about your industry and talking with you about it some more. Oh, now this is confusing, right? I have to click. We have one presentation running there and one here for my notes. Right. Very quickly, my company where I work, it's called Acquia. We now actually work ourselves in the area of enabling innovative and transformative business models. So this is quite germane to us. Our customers include people like NASDAQ, like Sony Music, like Warner Brothers Music, like Al Jazeera. And we've gone essentially from a services company around a particular open source content management system, which is a complicated thing to build big websites, to offering a lot of services to really enable transformation. So all the buzzwords that you hear today about personalization, about delivering the right sort of content at the right time, customer journey experience, we're right in the thick of that, and it's a pretty nice place to be. So, a technology does not a business model make. We associate transformations and innovations with certain technologies if we think through history, whether it's the internal combustion engine or whether it's the Wright brothers airplane or the cotton gin or what have you. But technologies themselves are nothing without a business model that links them to a market need. And the great innovations, the great transformations, are often those that not only innovated somewhere, but kind of created a market. Think of the MP3 player before there was iTunes, right? It was a thing to copy somehow, to copy your music onto. iTunes led the transformation that means that, you know, I think all of the music, well, not quite all of it, but the majority of the music that I listen to, I don't even say that I own it anymore, somehow comes through the air to me, and that's a huge innovation. It's changed, you know, it started the copyright wars. It's certainly advanced the pocket supercomputer technology that we all used. But it was just another music player until the iTunes business model came around. So today, oh, this is, I swear by the last slide, I'll get these in sync. Today, I would like to compare innovators in recent history against incumbents in business, and just talk just a little bit comparing some of the advantages and disadvantages of being in those positions. I want to talk through how all of us can be innovative, how we can innovate within our organizations, come up with transformative business models. There are some studies out there that are starting to indicate how to go about this, and it's pretty interesting. And I want to address 3 questions about innovation that were put to me recently. And then we'll go for coffee. Forgive me that, probably, let's start this right now. Yes. I was given a half an hour to do this. I'm probably going to go just a little bit long, forgive me. I was told that the coffee break afterwards is long enough that hopefully it won't be too disruptive. I'm also left-handed, and the thing has to go that way. So, native innovation, I would say. Nowadays, if we look at the startup, right, the digital natives, they can come in, and they can come in without the burden of already doing something in a new way. They can start with a different set of margins, for example. They can decide how to be profitable and how profitable they want to be on a per unit or a per customer basis in a different way than a company that's, you know, paying a lot of people and moving a lot of things around the world already. They can build new partnerships. They can change their processes and solutions, namely because there aren't so many consequences to those changes. The fact that they come in fresh and small is, to my mind, even more of an advantage than having a given technology play or a business model that's set in stone. So let's compare a few of these incumbents versus innovators. Amazon was an online bookstore, and once Amazon started to become successful, it started to kill the chain bookstores in the United States and around the world. There are fewer bookstores in the world now physically because of Amazon. Over time, they decided, hey, we know how to sell books. We know how to connect an online, a web page to getting a book to your house. We can sell, I guess we can sell anything. And nowadays, Amazon is pretty much de facto the online marketplace, I suppose, apart from Alibaba. Certainly in our part of the world, Amazon is very, very, very dominant. They built the infrastructure to sell anything and connect its logistics and, you know, to make product recommendations and to help me find the things that they think I like. They made all of this infrastructure to support a catalog of millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of products. That requires a lot of computing power. And some brilliant person in that organization said, hey, this infrastructure is amazing. Why don't we sell our infrastructure as a service? And nowadays, Amazon Web Services runs the vast, a huge slice of the internet. Netflix runs on Amazon Web Services, as do any number of large players. I'm proud to say that my company is actually one of the top, I don't think I'm allowed to say the number in public, but one of the top 10 Amazon customers by business volume in the world, which is pretty exciting. Our hosting infrastructure that we let Amazon help us with, takes tens of billions of hits a month. And it's because somebody thought, hey, this stuff that supports this amazing business, let's sell that other thing. And this is a key pivot moment for anyone, and I'm going to touch on it hopefully a couple times today, but this is a key moment. If you build something that works really, really well for you, 9 business cases out of 10 are non-unique. There could well be an opportunity for you to take that thing that you've become really good at and spin it off internally, externally, give it to a new division, and make a business of that. And that's a very, very common pattern in today's innovation, taking something that works well for you and making that your business as well. So Amazon came in as a new player into a relatively mature web hosting market that was run by players who rented you a metal box attached to some electricity and bandwidth somewhere, and you paid for that, and you used it as much as you used it, and if it was too big, it was too big, and if it was too small, you were in trouble, and you had to buy another one up front and run it. They had to build a lot of buildings, they had to pay a lot of people. Everybody has that, but it was very much tied to owning and running and maintaining and upgrading a lot of bare metal, we call it in the business. Amazon came in, well, they are also tied to servers, they also have all these technology burdens, but they decided to sell it. You know, you use an hour of computing time, we'll sell you an hour of computing time. If you're done, that's fine. And they've scaled this across any number of web technologies, not just the hosting, but different kinds of databases, different kinds of services that they can provide on this infrastructure, and they just let you pay for what you use. And as they've grown, every single service they've introduced has become cheaper over time. So they're running on really, really, really tight margins, but they're relying on the volume of their business to keep them afloat, and they're doing incredibly well. And they're agile and they're personalized. They give you the product that you need, and they develop with you and your business as you go. It's very, very exciting. My company, Acquia, we started by offering, we were the first company to offer commercial service level agreement based support for an open source content management system called Drupal. We still do that. We then built on top of a support offering, we built our own hosting stack because we could give better support. Then we bought a spam fighting tool. Then we offered turnkey faceted search as a service, spam tool, I think I said already, and a bunch of services to help you run, you know, websites and applications built with this technology, Drupal, better. And that was 8 years ago when we started. That was transformative. That helped larger organizations adopt this technology and transform their businesses. Nowadays, I would contend that just having a website is not per se transformative, and having a website that is scalable and secure and does what you want it to and doesn't do anything else, that's really, really important, but it's also kind of commodity nowadays. So over time, we're got to remember to click both things, I'm sorry. If I do that again, somebody please tell me. Right, that's us. So we're a cloud native business. We started on in the cloud. We never had any other business model. And we have this really cool, weird advantage. We are building services on top of a thing that's not ours. The thing that's not ours is this open source technology that's built and maintained by literally more than 35,000 active developers, and there are thousands of service providers around the world who work with this technology. So we're actually part of a technology community that is comfortable and happy sharing ideas and solutions. So it's very, very, very powerful. When you hire my company or any other Drupal service provider, even if it's a one-person website building business, you are hiring tens of thousands of us at the same time, and you are buying 15 years of development time. That's millions and millions and millions of hours of coding and best practices out of the gate. Adobe's content management offering is good. It's clearly successful. It is clearly doing well for plenty of organizations around the world. Does anybody use Adobe Web Experience Manager, CQ5, any of those things? Does anybody? Okay, interesting. They're focused. But it's I mean, excellent. Does anybody use Drupal? Hey, the EASA uses Drupal. They're my friend, and we'll talk later. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm here all week. So Adobe's so a proprietary business offering a content management, digital marketing, digital transformation offering. Won't usually have 35,000 developers on staff, with a commensurate number of dedicated security people, with all of the innovation that 35,000 people plus another 150,000 active users on the website and millions of end users all working in parallel on the system. We simply have an order of magnitude, a critical mass that company cannot achieve. They therefore must focus on very, very, very large, very high value deals, and they don't do very many of them. And we can be out there literally offering everything from your club or school website to running NASDAQ investor relations websites and every Sony, every Warner Brothers music artist, and everything in between, the Grammy Awards, the Brit Awards, and innovate at every level because there are specialists and experts in every field pushing this along. So we have a huge a huge competitive advantage in this. Adobe's now trying to move to a usage-based model. They simply don't have the advantage of this open source community. I'm going to touch on this a little bit more later. Look at me, I clicked at the same time. So, Uber has 5 of the 6 hallmarks of a digital innovator. They're on-demand, and they're data-driven, and they're personalized, and they're certainly agile. And, you know, in theory, they benefit drivers and riders. They have no infrastructure costs per se. They are simply a web-based marketplace for putting people and rides together. The business model, however, is a real challenge to regulators, and this is something I think that Dominique and I have been talking about a little bit in recent weeks, about the challenges also that you mentioned, Mr. Key, the challenges between innovation and regulation, between safety and progress and so on. It's very, very hard to say. You know, not only do the taxi, the taxi drivers and the established interest groups have an interest in how Uber's working, but we do as well. Should my driver be insured? Should my driver be registered? How should the car be inspected? And in every country that Uber's operating, the responses have been vastly different. Whether you look at a country that has some questionable taxi industries, I think the United States is a fair example, depending on where you are, or countries where I believe that the taxi services are excellent, like Germany, where I live. Taxis always face greater legal compliance hurdles. They have insurance and setup costs, depending on where you live. Now, here's where... So Uber is unquestionably a very important business model that has changed our world and is going to continue to do so. And you know, how many startups do I get pitched that it's like, we are the Uber of, right? We're the Uber of pizza delivery. We're the Uber of leftover food, whatever it is. Different countries have responded to this in different ways. In Ireland, any taxi driver can also be an Uber driver. So the taxi companies have simply said, hey, put in the Uber app. Put in the Halo app too. But the government said, you're either a taxi or you're not taking passengers commercially on the road. Done. Which I find interesting. Germany has forbidden this kind of marketplace, and certain cities in Germany have also forbidden AirBnB from operating. Germany has an excellent taxi fleet of very new cars with very nice drivers. The prices are pretty reasonable for what it is. The regulators forbade this kind of a hailing marketplace for independent drivers. But the industry turned around and made a hailing app. So now, actually, the one thing that I think was missing in Germany, if we have good cars and good drivers and a safe system, now we can call them from our phones wherever we are too. So it's interesting that the German taxi industry actually came to meet the innovation in the middle. I really, really like that. And just for the record, my suspicion around Uber comes down to some of the factors that you can encounter in the United States, for example, where to some degree, and this is just for me, but it looks like an excuse not to employ people properly. And in the case of a country that, in my experience and only my opinion, you know, education is not necessarily a right, healthcare is not necessarily a right. These things are thought about there very differently to how we think about them in Europe. It seems to me like another excuse to just put somebody on a limited contract and let them go and reduce my liability as a business. If I'm looking at the bottom line, good. Is the market, is the idea very innovative? Yes. As a left-leaning social, you know, I want my society and my neighbors to be well off. I think if my neighbor's well off, I'm better off. As that sort of a person, I'm a little bit suspicious. But great business model, and there's a lot to be learned there. AirBnB, which we can argue is a very, very, very similar business. It's a marketplace to connect, in theory, unused space with people who need to stay somewhere. Airbnb is a business I love. I have an Airbnb guest room in Cologne. It's right downtown, right by the trade fair, if you need a nice place to stay. And I have stayed in dozens and dozens of Airbnbs from Mont Saint-Michel in France to the First District in Vienna to Barcelona to San Francisco to Berkeley to Australia. And especially earlier, Airbnb actually had a real community feeling. You get to meet real people, you get to talk, you get a nice local experience, it's great. Competing with the hotel industry, you have a similar problem. Hotel businesses have to buy properties and develop them and maintain them and hire an awful lot of people. It's very expensive. I also stay in a lot of hotels in my job, and I appreciate that they're there. Airbnb has essentially no cost to expand their inventory. If you want to rent your room, and you're allowed to, where you live, you can put it on there. Airbnb takes quite a significant cut of the business you do, but it's nice. You know, some months I think my guest room almost pays for itself, but it's not why I have a guest room. I also want my father-in-law to stay with us. But I really, really like Airbnb, and it's hard for me to explain completely rationally why I don't like Uber as much. But Airbnb presents very, very similar challenges to regulators. Do I have a fire extinguisher? Do I have a smoke detector? Am I paying my taxes properly and so on? Well, yes, I am, but I don't know if everybody is. And cities like Rome and Paris and New York are facing the problem that people have bought up entire properties and are simply renting them out on these platforms and making it hard for students and the economically disadvantaged and regular families to stay in these cities that are popular with tourists. It's a problem. Very, very briefly, I don't know if I really do briefly, there. So talk about innovation, talk about this crazy thing, open source software. Who is unfamiliar with what open source software, what I mean when I say open source software? You're unfamiliar with that, okay. So just to get us on the same page, I don't have a slide for this, but imagine we have 4 philosophical principles that are then exercised in code. In open source software, we call these things the 4 freedoms, and open source software and free software, which is a very, very slightly different movement. They're very, very similar. I'd be completely happy to discuss the differences, but it would take another hour here. So open source software comes from the free software movement. If you have a piece of software that's been open source, that means that you can use it. You can download it and you can use it for anything you want to. Nobody can take it away. Nobody can charge you double for it next year. Nobody can tell you that your particular business or your particular vision of the world is wrong and forbid you from using it. So you are free to use it. It's freedom number 1. The second freedom is you are free to study it. That means that you can see all of the source code. So for our organizations, this means incredible risk mitigation. You can look at every single line of code, get any expert of your choice whom you trust, so look at the software, and they will tell you, hey, it does exactly what it says it does, or look, this is dangerous, or actually here it's calling, you know, a bad actor somewhere, we can't use this. Open source, there's nothing hidden from you, so you have incredible risk mitigation, and this is, so you're free to study, you're free to understand what you're getting. That's incredibly powerful. Then, any open source software package, be it Linux, be it LibreOffice, be it Drupal, you can modify it. You are free to make it what you need to be. So a system at scale like ours has you know, a great set of core functionality and then thousands of plugin modules that add and change that functionality. We say in our community, you download Drupal, you download the plugin modules, you can get to 80% of the solution that you need, 90% of the solution. But that thing that you need, that thing that it doesn't do, you are free to change it so that it does that too. You can make it the exact tool that you need. And the 4th freedom, the freedom to distribute it, means that over time what people have done is they've made these solutions that address a particular problem, and they've passed those back to the community. And there's a community now, as I said, of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who use this stuff, and we're sharing innovation. So you have experts in education, you have experts in government, you have experts in media and entertainment, and you know, dozens of other fields, all using this stuff and creating great solutions for their niche. Business problems are non-unique. Therefore, we have a virtuous circle because everybody's then sharing these modifications and improvements as you go. It's incredibly powerful. It's incredibly powerful. So every IT project costs money. You have to host it. You have bandwidth. You have to support it. You have to make it look pretty, right? But with open source software, instead of waiting for someone, like begging Microsoft to put another button in Microsoft Word, right? With LibreOffice, I can get someone to code that for me. And since I am paying a license fee of $0, everything I invest in an open source software project, I'm investing directly in functionality, so I get much more value for my money. I'm not paying money to have permission to see if this solution will work. My cost of risk is simply telling my developer, hey, go download that, play with it for a week, and give me a demo, right? And it's not, oh, first pay the $400,000 base fee for your size of organization, and then let's count how many user seats you want, and then we'll see if it'll work. So we're very, very focused on delivering value. This also means, by the way, that open source service providers, it behooves us to give the best service possible, because you can take this and go anywhere with it, because everyone's allowed to work with it, right? And one of the powers of this thing is really interesting. There's an absolutely fantastic book that is free to download and read by a guy called Eric von Hippel. He's an MIT business professor. He thinks about innovation a lot. And there's this one very powerful idea that I think could also be relevant in your industry. Open source software is not only the product of thousands of people working together. It is the idea, he talks in this book, he talks about the classic manufacturing model. You have manufacturers and you have consumers. You manufacture a thing and you distribute it to the consumers. You create something and you broadcast it. And so there are two roles, and there are some really interesting examples in the past, but over time what's happened in some industries is people have accepted the manufactured thing and then tinkered with it and played with it and made it their own, and they've made like little communities around. The invention of the windsurfer, the windsurf boards, was not done in industry. It was some crazy dude who took a surfboard and screwed a sail on it, right? So this one extra superpower that this virtuous circle in open source gives us is that we make the software that we use, that we modify to make it our own. So we are the manufacturers and the users at the same time. There's a very tight loop. There's a very interesting innovation cycle that we can drive forward ourselves as much as we need it. Very interesting book, written in 2005. It predicted an awful lot of what the world likes, of what my world looks like today. It's definitely worth checking out. So that was a little bit about incumbents and innovators. Now I'd like to talk about the formula for innovation and transformative business models. Whenever it was that I was supposed to finish, I'm going to go over, I'm sorry. Who's heard of this? Fantastic TED present. Oh, shh. Okay, who's heard of this? Yes, it's a fantastic TED presentation, the Golden Circle. I keep coming back to this in my life as well. Simon Sinek did a talk called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. There's a book called Start With Why, and there's this concept of the Golden Circle. So, as I said at the beginning, a given technology doesn't make you innovative. It doesn't give you anything unless it's tied to a business model that connects it with a market need. So if you want to do the Golden Circle wrong, you start from the outside, right? In our case, a lot of businesses are like, let's buy a new technology, let's implement that new system, okay, and now we're going to do things, and we're going to innovate, and we're going to go digital, right? The Golden Circle posits that if you don't know why you are doing something, then there can be no sensible way to figure out how you are going to do that thing, and therefore, whatever it is that you do, the what, cannot be effective, cannot be directed, it certainly cannot be measurable, and these are all things that are very important to us today in business. So if you don't know the why, you don't have a vision, right? And if you don't have a vision, you can't build consensus around what it is that your business is now and is going to be. Without consensus, you can't make mandates, you can't pass off recommendations for your departments or your self to make a policy. or procedures, and therefore you cannot act effectively. So, doing the golden circle wrong, you buy a thing and you do stuff with it, and then you see where you get. And maybe you get lucky, probably you won't. Now, if you do the golden circle right, and you start with the why, getting to the why, it's, what I'm going to say here is very short, but it's a very, very big deal. Wherever your organization is, maybe you're fighting off digital natives, maybe you're fighting off newcomers, maybe you've got a business model that's working great, but you can see it coming to an end, or you need to expand, or you need to change. You need to figure out where you are. You need to look at the trends in your industry, in our world. Hey, is that virtual reality? Is that, composite materials are a great example. There's any number of amazing things going on right now. You need to really, really look at the trends and how people are doing things, and figure out where you want to go. You need to set the big vision that you want to attain. Some of the things that I've been reading recently call this the pole star, the North Star. It's the thing that you navigate towards. You need to have a goal. It needs to become like wherever you are now, that is where we want to be, okay? And then you have your why. What are we doing? We are trying to get there. And you need to understand what's going on in your industry and your company, and you need to get, starting with your executive leadership, you need to create this vision. You need to then work down through your organization so that everybody believes in it, okay? And then executive leadership needs to enable themselves. The CEO needs to enable the rest of executive leadership. Executive leadership needs to enable management. Management needs to transmit this through the organization. You then need to figure out how you're going to get there. You need to challenge all of your metrics. The metrics that you measure your business by today are designed to tell you whether you're succeeding at your business today. You need to set other metrics that can say, actually, since we now need to go over there, what should we be looking at? And of course, whatever your business is, there's no way that I can tell you what that is now, right? But you need to figure out metrics and reporting to know whether you're making it, whether you're even traveling in the right direction. And you need to challenge everyone to look for opportunities for change, to do things so that you're aiming at your North Star, at your Pole Star. Maybe that's selling to new customers in new ways, resegmenting your market, personalizing your offering. Maybe you move into a new business. Maybe you abstract out something that you're really good at and turn that into another business. Maybe you take the data that you collect on your customers or about the things that you do, and you can repackage that as a new business model. And maybe you're doing too much and you need to specialize. But a great way to succeed, if you need to refocus or if you need to concentrate on something and perhaps let go of something else, figure out how to do that thing with your partners. Figure out how to let someone else do it who wants to be in that business. And you'll create a great ally and a great, union for moving forward in some kind of cooperation for the future. Building community around your business models can be extremely, extremely, really powerful. So then, changing your metrics, giving people opportunities to point you at the Pole Star, looking for new opportunities and so on, then you need to create a new business model. And you need to test it, and you need to run it, and then see how your metrics are looking, and see what you could figure out, and make changes, and iterate, and continue to move your business until you're going in the direction you want to go to. Now, according to the Harvard Business Review, if the model that you create outdoes current business models in 3 or more of the following areas, then you've got a good shot at success. It's not a guarantee, but the HBR people look at these factors as indicators of the potential for success for transformative, innovative business models. So make a more personalized business. Make a business that reuses things instead of throwing them away. share, excuse me, share existing assets. We're recognizing some patterns here now. We can clearly talk about Uber and Airbnb here. We can clearly talk about Amazon. We can clearly talk about, so usage-based pricing is here. A more collaborative ecosystem really, really speaks to me, and it's that thing I just mentioned. But an open source community helping you can be great. For example, or creating better partner networks. There's at some point I wanted to say. Yes, I'm sure it's going to come up somewhere, but this is a great point. Might as well say it here. You need to focus on what you're good at, by the way. You need to focus on what's going to get you there and not on the other stuff around you. And so there's another really interesting opportunity. Don't compete on stuff that's not your core competency. Don't compete on IT if you are a music marketing company. There are great technologies, there are great open source technologies and communities that provide incredible service, incredible opportunities around commodity functionality. So if there's stuff that people already do in the world, don't compete on reinventing, at this point, on reinventing personalization, web hosting, whatever it is. You don't need to do that. Your job at EASA is not to run servers and to protect yourself against DDoS attacks. Your job at EASA is to make it so that I can, fly around the world and talk with nice people like you. So focus on your core competency. Outsource, share what's not your core competency. Right, and be agile and adaptive. Be flexible about this as you go. Now, so you've set a goal, you've developed a business model. Now, what do? Having the goal that we're aiming at and having a business model and metrics and so on that we think are going to turn us in that direction is great because it gives us now the chance to set tactics according to all of that, right? And if you don't know why you're doing something, you can't act effectively. Create the best metrics that you can that support innovation and transformation. You need to remain profitable. You need to keep an eye on top-line revenue, yes, but frankly, your transformative metrics need to have a strong priority if you want to get them to a place of profitability as well. Don't eat the whole elephant. I like that statement. I should have put a slide on. Don't eat the whole elephant. Opportunities for change can be very, very, very small. And if you're looking at your data properly, you can probably find ways to refine and improve high-value processes first that will, for a small incremental change, deliver a lot more value, deliver the kind of change you're looking for. And over time, small changes. Who speaks German here? Who speaks German? German. Kleinvieh macht auch Mist. Right? So German is a wonderfully earthy language. I like German a lot. And the Germans are very, very practical people. So when they talk about small changes have a great effect over time, the Americans would tell you, oh, son, you put some money in the bank and compound interest. Compound interest. By the time you retire, you'll be good. The Germans, they say, even small animals poop. Now, if you're a farmer, that's important. You can use that material to make your plants grow better. So small incremental changes can be very, very helpful. Reduce your complexity. Automate wherever you can. Simplify your business processes. Take your 600 safety specific checks and make them 67 by telling me, management, don't tell me this is where we need to go and I need you to do A, B, C, D, 8 to 600 this thing, right, and use this nut and this bolt and that wheel. Don't tell me that. Tell me, here's where we are. How can your process help us get there? I need you to do this. And you set me my goal, whatever it is, let me do it. Don't tell me how to do it. Let me help you, okay? So, and really, really interesting examples of real-world small incremental change. The City of Westminster has a Drupal website and was built by a partner company of ours. That's why I know about it. City of Westminster, when you want to make a change to your house, like put a door in a different place, put an addition on it, whatever, you have to apply for a planning permit, of course. And on their website, as part of just installing it and whatever, and so these planning permits take, a certain number of days to process, and what would happen was people would submit the planning online. You could already do that in Westminster, and then they noticed that people would call. So this is also where your data is very important. So someone would submit a planning application, and then they'd call a couple days later, and then they'd call a week later, and then they'd call a couple of weeks later, and they'd say, hey, so I need to buy my windows, I need to find a contractor, the city of Westminster, the developers who built the website, made one change to their website. One change to their website. When you submit a planning application to the city of Westminster, when you click the submit button, a message comes across the screen that says, thank you very much for your submission. Our average working time for these applications is 30 days. We will be in touch with you. One line on the screen reduced call center volume in the City of Westminster Planning Department by more than 30%, which meant that the city employees could process the applications faster and process more of them and use their time more valuably and not on the phone all the time, okay? Now, that's a mid-sized, rich, important city council in the UK, but multiply that across whatever scale of business you're in and think about one message, one process that was simply explained. That's just some documentation. That radically changed the amount of value that that department was allowed to deliver, right? There is a bank in Central America that is a customer of ours, and I don't know whether I'm allowed to say it out loud, so I won't. It's a really big, important bank in Central America. They're a customer, they're a normal walk-in, do banking bank, so they have credit card products, and they used to essentially focus on offering credit card applications in the branch, and you could do it on the website as well, but that was just sort of an option. So when they rebuilt their website, they focused on the user experience, they focused on simplifying the process of this application, and they started encouraging people to go to the website to apply. So in the past, applying for a credit card in the branch, I think even today, applying for the credit card in the branch of the bank costs $5 to process for the bank. And they were getting about 200 of these online a week at $5 each. Now, with the new UX and with the people in the branch and the online presence and everything, pointing people to this online funnel for doing the applications, that's now very nice to use. Now, they get 5,500 online credit card applications a week instead of 200, but the cost per application to the bank when it's done online is $1. So they have increased their business volume by orders of magnitude and reduced their cost also by orders of magnitude at the same time by simply making it a better experience, right? By making a change to how the website looks. The back-end processes are the same. So small changes can make a huge difference to your organization, right? And then after you've done all of this, go back and measure, go back and rejigger your business process, your business model, go back to how, and do it again, right? And you'll get there. So, So the team from EASA sent me 3 questions about innovation. They said, we want to do a little interview with you later. They just sent these to me yesterday or the day before. And I was looking at them yesterday and actually decided that it would round out my presentation really, really nicely to just go through these 3 questions. Darn it. There, another nice airplane photo, 3 questions about innovation. So, how does the web industry keep up with constant innovation? Frankly, with all this stuff I've just told you about open source drives a huge percentage of the web. Open source, the Apache web server, all of the different CMSs, all of the PHP language runs 80% of the web. It's open source. Huge communities of smart people who like to solve hard problems together get the web a long way. And as I mentioned, we have tens or hundreds of thousands of people working in parallel to solve problems and to innovate together, and this gives us incredible speed of innovation, incredible agility along the way. And we move as open source, as the web, as a very large percentage of it is open source anyway, that really, really helps us move and keep up with things as they change. Also if you look at the businesses like the ones built around websites, the most obvious place where we encounter the web today is we're not going to talk about the Internet of Things yet. Every industry, every vertical, everyone is touched by digital now. Even if you don't have a website, even if you don't go online, your barbershop, your restaurant, everybody's online now. And we're working with these sort of people all the time. So I think that for me, frankly, just the number of people who are innovating and sharing their innovations on the web is one of the key factors why we keep up with innovation. I have a lot to say about this one. In your opinion, what are the challenges that more conventional industries, such as aviation, are facing when dealing with innovation? Well, startups and digital natives are disrupting things. They have different cost structures. That's always challenging. There's this question about the speed of innovation versus regulatory responsibilities, right? Safety regulations take a long time to put in place. I have this idea of, I like the idea of setting goals and then letting us figure out how to get there. That seems very, very sensible. Reducing complexity certainly seems like a great idea. From the open source world, I could see, so the difference between science and alchemy is that scientists share and compare their results, right? So what if we have a new challenge in aviation that's around safety, but we let anyone who wants to come and look at it and address it and make a proposal to us or do a test or run something. Maybe we can do parallel processing to solve some of the problems. Maybe we can open source the problems and the solutions. And communities of experts form in the world today to address things like this. So that might be, interesting. Some organizations have what they call a two-speed IT model, where part of the organization keeps the lights on and the other part of the organization is looking at innovation, is looking at change. That could be something to look at. I think that an absolutely key element is to require transparency. If we look at what VW was doing with diesel cars for all those years and polluting much, much more than we thought we were being responsible buying a diesel car from them, and they weren't. I think that we should require safety critical, mission critical, societally critical functionality to be implemented in auditable ways, right? I think that if you're manufacturing a safety system or a pollution control system, that code should be auditable. It should be open source. Anybody should be allowed to look at it and improve it. Criminals in the United States, or people being convicted of crimes in the United States, are not allowed to audit the code of the machines that are looking at their DNA, and there have been some spectacular mistakes. Transparency would fix that. Mercedes has decided to kill pedestrians before drivers. I think that there needs to be an ethical discussion about how autonomous vehicles make decisions, and that should be put in regulation, and we should implement those regulations in an open and transparent and auditable way so that a software programmer is not convicted of murder down the road. I think that wouldn't be really, really fair. In conclusion, are technologies creating more value? Absolutely. It's not a zero-sum game. There are tons of markets to be opened up. Open data is opening up value. Marketplaces of sharing existing goods are opening up value. There are incredible new models coming with the Internet of Things, with the personalization of data and products. But please remember that a technology itself is not a business model. You need to have a goal, a reason to exist. You need to aim at that. I read a lot of stuff to do this presentation. Please let me give credit for that. There. Yes. I'll be happy to give you the slides if you want to see them. I also used a bunch of photos, and these are the people that took those beautiful photos. I'm sorry I talked so long, but I got really excited about this. I will be here all day and tomorrow. I'm pretty easy to find on the web. I would love to talk with you. And I also really, really like airplanes and flying. So thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for being so patient with me this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jam. I think there's a lot of food for thoughts, and I believe it was an inspiring address. Now it's time for coffee. We have a coffee break, and we meet again here at 11 o'clock. Thank you.